Okay, so welcome again to our eSERS soundbite on the eSERS upgrade. The first thing that I want to do is I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to show you where you can find our eSERS hotlines that we've been sending out. We've already sent out two. One more will be sent out hopefully in the next 2 weeks on the day that the upgrade launches. So the way that you can find them, there are several ways that you can find our forms and publications on the eSERS site. If you go to this employer's whiteboard dropdown, you can click on the forms and publications here, or my Zoom is in the way, or you can close out of this, and on the eSERS main page, if you scroll down and click on employers, it just gives you a slightly different view. And at the bottom, we have forms and publications. So in the forms and publications, this is where you're used to finding all of the handouts, guides, resources that you need. We have re-added the eSERS hotline, and this is where you will find the most recent hotlines. There is one missing. Our communications department is working on getting that uploaded to our site this morning. But the first one was just announcing that we were going to launch the eSERS upgrade in mid-July. There were things that happened. I know everyone in the soundbite today is familiar with system upgrades, something happening, and the date getting pushed back. So that's exactly what happened. So it's going to be in the beginning weeks of August. This is our most recent hotline. Later on today, the very first hotline will be published here also. These links will also be sent to you when we announce the upgrade, the day that it will be available. But what we are going to do now is I am going to show you the new eSERS. If I can find, I had it up. Nope, it's not what I wanted. Okay, so, oh, here we go. This is our eSERS home screen. And if I show you something. So when you log in, this is what your home screen is going to look like. It looks just like the current eSERS that you have now. It's a different font. It's a slightly bigger resolution. The color scheme is different. It's, when I explained it earlier in one of our summer workshops, it's just very blue, all shades of blue, and lots of white. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to log out so I can show you this is what your login screen will now look like. So it's still the same. It's still going to ask you for the same information. And this is your login screen. So the very first eSERS hotline that we published was announcing where the print button will be now going forward. So typically this strip right here had always been the same, and there was always a print button in this this panel that you would, like your home panel, but now it's in a collapsed drop down where you can find the contact us, the help button, the print button, and to log off. So when you want to print your screens, especially in the payment remittance application, I know a lot of employers like to print out that final screen with the remittance ID on it, just so that you can file it away if you have any questions later on down the road if that payment was made. This is where you will now find the print button. So anytime you need to print a certain screen from eSERS, you would just go to the welcome dropdown and click on the print icon. One of the other changes in eSERS is the navigation panel. So we no longer have a previous button. So we would always say, never hit the back button in your browsing, in your web browser, never click the back button. We'd always say to click the previous button, but we no longer have a previous button. We now have a navigation panel, and I'll show you how that works here in a moment. So in my home screen, it shows that I have a contribution record in review status. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on some of these files that are currently in review, just so that I can get my file posted. So if I click on the header ID, it takes me to the header maintenance screen. If you notice here, this is now your navigation panel. So it gives you what they call a breadcrumb history of all of the places that you have visited in this recent session within eSERS. So if I want to go back to the previous screen, instead of clicking the previous button, I'm going to click on the previous application that I was in, and that was the eSERS home screen. Another way that this navigation panel works is if you click on the header ID, and I'm going to go ahead and work on these two files that are in review status. So what I typically like to do to tell my employers, if you have multiple files in review status, to always go to the status count panel, and this will help you review all of your files instead of going in and out of screens. You'll just click on this review hyperlink and you'll be able to arrow through. So if you notice, it used to have save, refresh, next. We no longer have a next button. You'll be clicking on these arrows. So, excuse me. Since I'm reviewing this information, my validation information is saying reported last name does not match system records. Service days must be greater than 0. So since this is a regular file, I'm going to enter in my service days of 8 days. And I believe I'm going to change the last name. So since I've updated and corrected my contribution record, I'm going to hit save like you typically would. My record is now valid. Now, typically you would hit the next button that's right here. Since there's no longer a next button, you're going to click on the arrow taking you to the next form. So I'm going to click here, and that brings me to my next record that's in review status. So my errors and warnings are saying hours must be greater than 0. Service days are invalid. Service days cannot be greater than the number of calendar days between period, begin date, and end date. So as I'm looking this over, Bruno is one of our coaches. I'm going to change the regular contribution to a supplemental. The service days are correct. I'm going to update the hours. Once I've updated the information, I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Oh, period, beginning, and end date don't fall within the same fiscal year. Okay. So I'm going to click on the previous arrow button to see what Anna said, 6/25 to 7/8.
Any supplemental pay will have to be June 30th ending day, and it won't straddle.
So never mind. Let's just change this to a regular person just so that we can get to the eSERS updates. So I have changed it back to a regular contribution. I'm going to give him 7 days, 30 hours. I'm going to hit save. My record status is valid. My header status is valid. So I'm ready to go ahead and submit my file for posting. There are several ways there are not several ways to do this. I apologize. We are getting used to this also. So what I want to do is I want to go back to the header maintenance screen so I can submit my file for posting, as opposed to hitting the previous button because we no longer have that. I'm going to click on the reporting, employer reporting header right here. That takes me back to my header maintenance screen, and I can click submit for posting. While you are getting used to this system, you can always, let's say you're in a file, and while you're getting used to the navigation path that we have set forth for you, if you just want to go back to contribution file correction, if you just want to click here, you're more than welcome to do that as you get used to this navigation panel. So you can click on your header ID, and that will take you back to the employer reporting header maintenance if you just want to verify that the contribution information is correct. I always like to tell my employers, and I'm going to sneak this in really quick, is to make sure that these totals match what you show on your end. It definitely helps when it comes to the payment portion of eSERS. But once you verify that everything is correct, you can go ahead and hit submit for posting. And eSERS works the same way that you're used to currently, except we no longer have a previous button, and you'll have to use the navigation path to help you move to different screens. So the one of the last update, which is probably one of my most favorite as I continue to play with it, it's called the unsubmitted form icon. So what's going to happen, let's say I'm in, and what it is, what the unsubmitted form icon does is that it holds on to information within a screen. Let's say you have to jump out of that application to get information, let's say bank account information, payroll reporting information for a certified wage. You have to leave that screen, go into a new screen to obtain your information. You'll click on a little icon up here, and I'm getting ready to show you. You'll click on an icon here, and it'll list all of the applications that you have unsubmitted information for that session only. And you can click on that application. It will take you to the last screen. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to go to payment remittance. I'm going to click on new payment remittance. And I'm going to make a payment for one of my penalties. So I'm going to click on my penalty, hit add selected to pay. I'm going to pay the remaining balance amount of $1,500. I'm going to hit next at the previous, or next at the top of the screen. Now I have to tell eSERS how I'm going to make my payment. So I'm going to pay by ACH debit, and I'm going to click add new payment. I'm going to choose my bank account of SERS payroll account, my payment amount of $1,500, and then I'm going to hit next. Oh, shoot. It worked because I apologize. Okay, so I can just show you. If you click on that, it'll take you to your last screen, but I wanted to show you because in this current system, so my SERS payroll account, $1,500. I'm going to hit next. I'm going to get this error because I did this yesterday and I didn't realize I didn't fix it, but I have my EFT draw limit too low. So if I try to make a payment out of my ACH debit account, my SERS payroll account for $1,500, and I tried to hit next, I got this error saying that the EFT draw limit is too high, or the EFT draw limit is too low for me to make this payment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on bank account maintenance. Why didn't that work? It probably didn't work because, okay, I apologize. Okay, we're going to click on new payment remittance. We're going to pay our penalty of $1,500. Click add selected to pay. It moves my liability down to the liabilities to pay panel. I'm going to pay $1,500. Going to click next. Here, I'm going to choose ACH debit. If you noticed, eSERS has started to save the information that is in my unsubmitted form at this point. So this right here is your unsubmitted form icon. So it looks like some of us internally are calling it what we believe it to be, like a floppy disk. But it's starting to save my information. Once you see that, it's starting to save your information in the form. So I want ACH debit. I'm going to click add new payment, choosing my bank account of SERS payroll account and my payment amount of $1,500. So when I hit next, I'm getting the error, deposit amount exceeds the current EFT draw limit. So I have this icon right here. It's showing me that it has saved my unsubmitted information. So to fix my EFT draw limit, I'm going to go to bank account maintenance. I'm going to click on the bank ID for the SERS payroll account that I need to increase my EFT draw limit to. So I'm going to update my EFT draw limit. When you update it, make sure you hit save because that's going to save your information. Now I want to jump back into the last screen in my payment remittance application. So I just hover over the unsubmitted form icon and click on the application I want to finish. So I'm going to click on payment remittance. And that takes me to my final screen. Not the final screen, the last screen that I was on. So I have all of my payment information here. I have fixed my EFT draw limit. I'm going to click next. That takes me to the final finish and submit screen. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click finish and submit. When I click finish and submit, the unsubmitted forms icon goes away. So before I get into all of that, I want to explain in the current system for eSERS for this specific thing that I just did for the payment remittance application. If you find an error in your payment remittance application and you have to jump out of payment remittance and do what I did and fix your EFT draw limit for your bank account maintenance, you would have to go back to payment remittance and start your payment remittance all over again from the very beginning. With this unsubmitted forms icon, you're able to jump into the last screen that you were in, and you can move forward from there. This is very helpful for this time of year for statements and surcharge. A lot of school districts get that error saying their EFT draw limit or the payment exceeds the EFT draw limit. And a lot of school districts are bouncing back and forth between bank account maintenance and payment remittance. So an option like with the unsubmitted forms icon, it's good because you can jump in and out of the screens. And if eSERS has started to save the information in your unsubmitted form, you can click on that icon and you can choose the application that you want to complete. And then you can move forward from there. Let me let's do this again. So for payment remittance, new payment remittance, I'm going to do this again because I want to show you. I know that my EFT draw limit is not large enough to cover this account, but there are several ways. There are 3 ways that you can terminate the unsubmitted form information. So let's just say you just want to start all over. You don't want eSERS to save your information. There are 3 ways that you can cancel this information. You can click the cancel button in whatever screen that you're in. If you see that eSERS is saving your information, you can click cancel. You can close out of the application that you're in. So you would click the X in the navigation path. And the final way is to log off of your session. So it will only save the unsubmitted information within that session. So if you were to log out, handle a few emails, attend a meeting, and then jump back into eSERS to finish whatever process that you had started, eSERS will not save the information from a previous session. So the way to cancel this is to click cancel, to close out of the application, or to log off of your session. That's the only way that you can cancel this unsubmitted form information. Let's say I don't realize that it's saving my information and I decide that I want to do something else with an eSERS. So I'm going to go to certified wages. And then I do some certified wages and then I jump back into payment remittance. And if I click new payment remittance, eSERS will let me know form is already open in new mode. So this is telling you that you have unsubmitted forms. So you can click OK. And it'll take you to the screen that you were in where eSERS had saved that information. And if you want to start all over again, like I said, you would click cancel, or you can X out of the application, or you can log out of your current session. So what I'm going to do is I am going to click the X in payment remittance. And eSERS is going to ask, are you sure you want to remove the information from the unsubmitted form? And I want to say, okay. When I do that, it takes me back to the main payment remittance screen, and my unsubmitted forms icon is removed. So I can start my new payment remittance from scratch. Are there any questions that I should address the group?
Sorry, Katie, I was over here thinking. I don't think so. You exited out all of the display panels, and we just had a question about the EFT limit.
Oh, when
If you just want to review that real quick.
Sure. So this is a little off topic, but it's very important because eSERS's preferred method of payment is ACH debit. So we prefer electronic payments, but our most preferred method is through ACH debit. And the reason being is that when you submit your payment remittance, and if you make a payment using ACH debit, you're submitting your payment remittance and your payment at the same time. If you choose ACH credit or an EFT, that is you contacting your bank and having them send us the money through wire. But if your school district chooses to use ACH debit, you would click on the bank account maintenance application and you would click new bank and you would enter in your bank information here. What this EFT draw limit does, it's a security feature to make sure that we can't over withdraw from an account. So some school districts will only have a certain limit on an account of money or funds to be withdrawn from it. So this EFT draw limit is a security feature, just making sure that no more than this amount of money can be withdrawn from this account. A lot of school districts just when we had first launched ACH debit, and they would call me and they would ask, what should I put my EFT draw limit to be? And we just always give the advice of whatever on average you send to eSERS for form of payment, go ahead and pad it by a few $1,000s and make that your EFT draw limit. The reason that I showed the example today of making a payment and receiving the error saying that your EFT draw limit is too low for you to make this payment. We are in statement and surcharge season where you will be making payments that exceed your EFT draw limit. If you are only basing your EFT draw limit on what you make your employee and or employer contribution payments for. So your surcharge will typically be more than that. It's possible that your employer's statement balance would be more than that. So the reason I showed you that the way that you can bounce back and forth between the two applications is that it's relevant to the current season that we are approaching for eSERS and for our employers. So this EFT draw limit, you can constantly raise or lower, and you don't have to wait for employer services to approve amounts. This is your bank account. You are in charge of it. We are just withdrawing money from it with your permission to make payments towards your liabilities. We only withdraw the payments when there is a payment remittance that is submitted from the school district to us. But that's basically what your EFT draw limit is. You're telling us that nothing can be withdrawn from this account more than this amount. Okay, well, if there aren't any more questions, please feel free. If you want to send any follow-up questions that you didn't want to ask today, please feel free to email us at employerservices@ohsers.org. And we're going to go ahead and end our Zoom call. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are very excited about our new system, and we hope you like it too. Thank you.